Hey everybody, it is Allie. Thank you for checking out the free training. Just wanted to say hi before I share my screen and get a little bit tiny in the window. So, you're in the right place if you are a coach, a therapist, or health practitioner, and you really want to help your clients more deeply or patients. We're going to talk about how to get people unstuck and why you don't need another tool, or as I used to call it when I was trying to become really good at what I do, shiny object syndrome. So today we're actually talk about how those things can set us back. Today we're going to talk about a client is stuck, people fall off in your group, right? The question is it me? Is it them? We're going to talk about what's actually happening there. Who's actually in the room when your clients are stuck? The room actually fills up pretty fast. And we're going to talk about the first step to unique change they can't get anywhere else. We're talking about the results that you want for them, they want, and you want for your business, which makes running a business just all the easier, which in this day and age, we could all use. So before we begin, we're often, in a million different directions. To get the most out of today, let's come into our bodies. Let's land here, right? I am a maximizer. I want you to get the most out of today. So eliminate or reduce distractions, close your tabs. If you can put your phone on silent, that would be great. So much of being able to resolve stuckness, get our clients back on track, is having space to hear ourselves, to hear the information. And I just don't want you to miss out on the very insights you'll need to up-level your private and group coaching, your clients' results, your business, and really just your joy that brought you to want to help people. So a little bit about me. I have been doing this now for over 20 years, almost 19 years full time. I created my research-based, this makes this a very different approach because it's research-based, Truce with Food model while in grad school at the University of Pennsylvania. Philly will always have my heart. But it's also been refined over 20 years of working with real clients, okay? We've all taken the trainings. All of this stuff sounds great in theory, but what actually happens when you're with really messy, beautiful, brilliant human beings who are trying to figure it all out, right? And another important thing is I have run a sustainable business for over 19 years, meaning, and I share this not because finances can be weird, but we have to normalize talking about them. But I had to support myself and I had to contribute half of my income to first my marriage, first myself, then my marriage, and now my family with my son. And so I just share that because obviously I've had to been onto something if I've been in business this long. I've used this in my business. And I've also used this with my own change challenges. I started out with food, but there's also a ton of challenges that are very much related, and this will make more sense in scaling my business. Now I've been mentoring other coaches, healthcare practitioners, therapists, fitness coaches for 6 years in my trauma-informed Truce Coaching Certification. And this is a sneak peek of that, a sneak preview of that, which is open for registration now. And I've really, this is my son, Essa, who, this was taken last year at this time, around this time when he was about to start kindergarten. And he was really the impetus for me wanting to go from one-on-one coaching to group coaching. I wanted to be able to have more time with him. I wanted to be able to work less and frankly, make more money. And what I'm teaching you today was really the foundation to be able to run groups very, very well, despite change being such an individualized process. And then I've had my Truce with Food podcast. It's in one of the top emotional eating podcasts. It has over 1 million plus downloads, and I've been featured in over 150 plus media outlets, from the Mayo Clinic's podcast to print. Remember print and Prevention Magazine, Wall Street Journal print, to a lot of the online spaces like Mind, Body, Green, and Well and Good. So you're in good hands today. So before we get into this training, I want to bring you this classic example that just came up in this last round of my Truce Coaching Certification, but it comes up a lot with the coaches that I mentor. So this client is running a group program, and one participant raises their hand and he's like, I need more customization than what you're giving us. And in the past, by week 3 of her group program, barely anyone is showing up on the calls, okay? So I want you to take a beat and think about what would be your reaction to this. If this is your business, your coaching practice, and this happens to you. And I would recommend pausing and just like really give yourself a chance to think about what would be my honest reaction. So this coach comes to me wondering, are these the right fit clients who need so much hand-holding and attention, right? A big part of business, is this the right fit for this client? Or are maybe these participants aren't really ready to do the work required to change, okay? This was my big fear doing group programs, which each person is different. Is it my program or is my coaching not good enough, right? Is it me, the client? And if we are thoughtful coaches, right, who don't just want to dismiss the first reaction that comes up in our mind, and we deeply care about our clients, we're going to wonder, is it me or is it them? Or is it one of the many business complexities? When clients are changing, the reality is it's both, okay? And it's called entanglement. That's kind of the pop psychology word. Maybe you've come across this on Instagram, and if not, your phone's listening and you'll hear it now. Or an everyday way to say is it's complicated, okay? There's a lot going on when someone is stuck. So the root cause of change not happening, okay? So a kind of better definition of entanglement or it's complicated is where the client and coach are unknowingly or unconsciously creating more fear in each other, okay? And this fear creates really protective resistance to change. So here's kind of the top 3 things we need to know about it's complicated or entanglement, okay? First, it's gonna happen. So let's normalize the reaction of us and our clients, okay? Our clients getting stuck, ghosting, not showing up, all makes sense. Our reactions of our fears, is it me? Is it them? All of our judgments of ourselves and other people, also totally normal. They all make sense, okay? Again, it's going to happen, especially the newer you are to your practice. And again, in the age of internet marketing and internet coaching, people tend to think, hey, 1 or 2 years of coaching and I know it all, right? But by new, I mean the first 10 years of coaching, okay? It took me 10 years to feel really masterful. Now, I didn't have this kind of framework or mentorship available, but I did have an Ivy League graduate program and a lot of amazing mentors there, okay? Entanglement can be interrupted without more tools, okay? So this is the key. More tools often deepen this entanglement, right? And we've all heard the client say, now I have so much to do, and if I can't get to all the self-care, right, then I feel like a failure, and then I've fallen off even my self-care, right? Or a different question to ask, right? And one of the tools that some of my clients have trained in is emotional freedom technique, right? EFT as it's called. And it can be really great. And it can, all of the tools and training you have can fit into this toolbox of change I'm teaching you today. And is really in my Truce Coaching certification. But this entanglement asks the question of, why do clients have to tap so much, right? Why do they need to journal so much? And again, I love journaling and it's not the whole thing. EFT can be great and it's not the whole thing, right? So that's what we're asking around entanglement. So when this entanglement or it starts to get really complicated happens physically, right? We have the coach and then we have the client or group participants, right? In the room, in the room where it happens, little Hamilton reference, or your Zoom room, right? What we have physically, we think we just have 2 people there or you in the group, right? How many participants? But emotionally, there's a lot, the room fills up really fast. And these are these invisible parts of our clients or their patterns that come out, okay? So we have a healthy adult self of the client or the group participants. And then we have the healthy adult self of the coach, okay? And this is who you meet in the beginning of the change. Chris Rock had a hilarious bit about dating people like decades ago. And he's like, when you're dating someone, you're not first meeting them, you're meeting their representative. And this is who our healthy adult self is. It doesn't mean it's not true. It doesn't, but it just means it's us at our best, right? And then we have the survivor self of your client or your group participants, and you have the survivor self of you as the coach, okay? So who are these people? And this is, again, a model that we go much more deeply into in my Truce Coaching Certification. So this is by this model of the three selves of trauma is by Professor Franz Rupert. And so the healthy adult self, or the representative that you meet at the beginning of change, right? The healthy adult self is us, all of us at our bravest, okay? It wants to take risks and grow and change. It's like, I'm here for this. Like, I've got one precious life, let's do this, right? It brought your client to work with you. It brought you to coaching and entrepreneurship, right? Or many of my clients are practitioners who take the road less traveled. Sometimes they're doing that within a medical setting, but you're interested in the road less traveled, right? And this healthy self is always present. That's the good news, right? And indigenous cultures have talked about this. Interfamily systems talks this as capital S self, right? So whenever multiple theories are all saying the same thing, you're like, probably true, right? Different language and in different contexts. Then we have the survivor self, okay? And the survivor self's job is actually to keep the trauma self dormant, okay? The survivor self is rooted in what I call street cred fear, okay? This is not, it's all in your head. You're making up these beliefs that aren't true. This is, I have lived through some stuff, okay? I have lived through being made fun of for my weight. I have lived through taking imperfect action and it getting me criticism and rejection. I have lived through messing up and people not caring for me, okay? So this survivor self has lived experience of why this change is very threatening, okay? You are gonna meet the survivor self in the middle of change, okay? We go from our representative to, ooh, when life gets lifey, survivor self is the one who's in the room, okay? Its job is to catastrophize, to prevent the worst from happening, right? It's your warning light. I'm going to do this. Have you thought of this? Whenever you're spiraling or hypervigilant, survivor self is online, okay? It has a small window of tolerance, right? If we're going to use nervous system language, small window of tolerance for change when life gets lifey, okay? So if you've ever been in a coaching situation in the first couple sessions, right, or the first couple sessions of a group, everyone has these idealized versions of what's going to happen. They're able to clear their calendar, blah, blah. Everyone is prepared for perfection. And then the perfect conditions come in, right? In the middle could be 6 months from now. It could be 3 weeks from now. But either way, you want to be prepared. So here's the key here. This is a tongue twister. The survivor self cannot be coached, okay? But what we do as a coach here is think, my coaching, I don't know how to do this. I need to go out and get another tool. And then we get another tool and the tool doesn't work, right? As well as we think it would. Oh, or it works on some people, not on other people, right? Oh my God, and we keep this cycle going because the reality is the survivor self cannot be coached, okay? And this shows up as, these are the words your client are using, but underneath it all, it shows up as self-sabotage, not doing what I know I should. I'll get to this once life calms down, right? Wanting perfect conditions, perfection, fall off and backslide, right? I'm back at square one, right? And if you're in the health field, maybe symptoms come back and someone's like, ugh, I'm not making any progress, right? Whenever this happens, right, the survivor self cannot be coached. And that's what's happening underneath. So when entanglement happens, you and your clients, or if you have group participants, you're going to have even more survivor selves in the room. You're all in the room, okay? So now you're coaching someone completely different, trying to coach someone completely different. And once again, this honeymoon period is over. You're in what we call the muddle, right? It's like the middle of change. People remember the beginning and the end. No one really remembers what happens in the middle of a story, of a book, of a movie. But this is where the magic is, and everyone just kind of wants to skip over that. And to be truthful, most beginning coaching certifications don't really touch this, right? And that's okay. That's not the place for that. You're just learning basic skills, but this is when you're ready to up level and really master. We're all different people and we are stuck in the middle and we're struggling, right? So the first step out of this entanglement, you need to know there are two different types of change. There's technical and there's adaptive. And I love this quote from Dr. Ronald Havitz, who is at Harvard and studies change and leadership. Because ultimately, coaches, we're leading our clients, but kind of the big reveal is we also have to lead ourselves in our own reactions. So he says the most common leadership failure stems from trying to apply technical solutions to adaptive challenges. Or as we say in the coaching world, when you have a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right? So let's go over technical versus adaptive change, okay? With technical change, this can be solved with new information or a skill set. So when I was starting out 20 years ago, right, I was teaching people about kale, about the microbiome. Nobody was doing this at the time, except for a small band of misfits of us functional medicine practitioners. That has changed. That's a whole other webinar. But this is when, hey, I need to learn. I want to run a 5K. What are some of the ways that I can do that, right? I want to learn how to meal prep better. How can I do that, right? I want more people to know about me. I need to learn marketing, right? Okay, so that is can be solved with new information or a skill set. But adaptive change, which is actually what happens in the middle of change, has no existing solution. It's like, what do you mean has no existing solution? Well, your clients are unique. They have unique patterns, and what works for one isn't going to work for another. And the reality is neither the client or the coach yet know how to close the knowing and doing gap. Okay, so that stuckness, falling off, falling back to old patterns, neither of you can know yet. But what do we want to do with our survivor self? Let me fix it. Let me over deliver. Let me give you more or try to give you more support so you'll like me, right? We all have our own patterns. In technical change, the problem is relatively easy to identify, right? So, okay, there are some basic marketing principles that we need to learn. Now, I would argue some of them are very exploitative, but essentially, you need to be able to sell people and sell people in terms of communicating the value and understanding why they would want to buy that, right? Or if you want to learn to run a 5K, right? Okay, the problem, I'm kind of out of shape, right? I haven't been running. I need to build up my conditioning, right? We know what the problem is, right? Or with emotional eating, clients tend to think it's willpower and discipline. I know it's a safety issue, right? I don't know exactly what the safety issue is, but I'm going to help them figure that out. So in adaptive change, here we go. The problem feels uncomfortable to identify and are easy to deny or resist, okay? So essentially, the survivor self has competing commitments why it makes sense not to change. I call it the why not or the break, right? Everyone in coaching, know your why, know why you want to do this, but there's a why not, okay? So we have to figure out, why does it feel unsafe to change? Why does someone feel unsafe and they're turning to food? Next, technical change has a known solution. We know how to do this. It's step 1, it's step 2, it's step 3, right? Just follow my steps, my protocol. With adaptive change, whoa, there's nothing to fix, right? Everything actually makes sense, but we need to navigate through these emotional patterns, right? So clients here, what we understand is clients are ready for change, but they need skilled adaptive support for their survivor selves, okay? So this is why I say it's both. It doesn't mean that you should doubt yourself as a coach or your abilities, but there is a skills gap when it comes to helping clients move through change that they haven't been able to do before, which honestly is like 90% of people. In technical change, solutions can be taught. Okay, so I'm going to teach you to do this, right? It's kind of like a recipe. I'm going to teach you, get eggs, flour. Maybe you're curious what's the best ingredients to use. I can teach you that, right? I can teach you food labels. But adaptive change, solutions usually require changes in how we show up in our lives. So this is less of a focus on behaviors and more on the patterns underneath that are currently invisible to our clients. So clients need to address the survivor self emotional patterns causing the behaviors or the habits. Behaviors and habits, just first level, right? Not root level. One layer, and this is one layer deeper than mindset work. We're going to get a little bit into how the sausage is made. We're getting to the identity level, which is much deeper, okay, and much more powerful. If you can Google the answer, it's a technical problem. Oh, the answer already exists. But in adaptive change, solutions require taking new action, experimenting to make new discoveries, okay? And what we get into in my Truce Coaching Certification is once we start helping clients experiment, we're not even concerned if they do the experiments right or wrong. We're just like, was their worldview expanded, right? Did they get the information that is currently in their blind spots? So it's so fun. So what works emerges for the client as long as entanglement doesn't get in the way, right? In other words, do we feel confident enough to be in this messy middle with people, okay? And we'll get a little bit into that in a second. So in technical change, the teacher learner expert is best, with teacher being the expert, right? The teacher has more knowledge. It understands there's a hierarchy that's been earned, right? But with adaptive change, it's best supported with a coaching or mentoring relationship where the learner is the expert. And this is where we got to wrestle with the hard but uncomfortable truth. Nobody changes because we tell them to, even if they come to us wanting to change, right? They have to come to their own conclusions of why they want to change, okay? And for many people, they think they want to change, right? Within the health space, I don't want to die young, right? I don't want to gain weight, right? In the business space, I don't want to bounce on my mortgage, right? I don't want to be embarrassed when I show up in my marketing. It's a lot of what people don't want. And so their motivation is actually really shame-based, fear-based, guilt-based. It gets people started, right? But it's kind of like cheap carbs. You're going to crash and burn. So we really have to reorient our clients around, why do you want to do this? It's okay if you still want all of that stuff, but what are you really for? How is this going to benefit you more immediately? And they have to discover that in the experimental process. And so the goal really for us is the clients want to change. And that's what we call self-leadership, self-authoring, right? So rather than being stuck as a problem, a really important reframe, we coaches love a good reframe, is that being stuck is a triple golden opportunity for your clients and the results they want, for you as a coach, right? Because we love helping people. We love ahas, right? We live for this stuff. So our practices and our businesses become so much more fun. We have so much more confidence showing up. And then it's really good for our business because of retention, client referral. And then of course, the better you get, the more clear your marketing becomes, right? So here's an example from this round of my certification. This client had said, I have a client who's just really, really stuck. And she's like 6 months in the certification. So she's doing things like, right, not in a perfect way. And actually, we really encourage imperfection. We model that for our clients so that they feel safe, right? And she's like, I just kind of took her through it, right? And she has momentum now. I can feel things are so much lighter, right? And she's like, how do you not get addicted to that feeling? It is an amazing feeling, right? And then she had this other client who she's like, I can see all her patterns now. I can see there's so much more potential. But the client was just like, nope, this is, I came to you for fitness training and that's what I want to stick with, right? And so my client starts, through mentoring with me, I'm like, don't force it upon her. Maybe just weave it into the conversation here and there. And so we have a lot of yoga instructors who come and we look at things also through a yin yang lens in the certification, which I don't need to get into now, but just kind of active recovery, like whatever, I'm not going to get into it. I'm great at a tangent. But she just talked about healthy adult self, survivor self, trauma self, right? And then just went through adaptive and technical solutions, right? In a very casual way, right? Not according to a formal coaching arrangement, how she usually did coaching. And then she went through some of the more detailed stuff, right? That we go to in the Truce Coaching Certification. And she's like, that's as far as we got. We just taught some theory essentially, right? And helped her figure out how it applied to her. And guess what? Yesterday, she immediately said she had 2 big things to share with me, and both were 180s on things she had previously labeled as not possible. And when I say you can get clients results they can't get anywhere else, not only are you getting them unstuck, but you are getting the results they didn't even know were possible for themselves. They didn't even know to include that in their why. And that's the power of adaptive challenges. So let's go back to my client in the beginning, okay? She was doubting her clients, her business, and herself, right? When the client wanted more customization and group participants were falling off after week 3, right? So Initially we said, what were your reactions? We talked about her reactions, right? Now that she's gone through the Truce Coaching Certification and has an adaptive skill set, she can see this customization request one layer deeper. It's the survivor self that wants perfect conditions to feel safe versus wanting hand holding, right? This is the avoid pattern that we talk about in the Truce Coaching Certification. This person was avoiding taking action, not because they didn't want to change, not because they really needed customization, right? And that's what I'm talking about, mindset work. It wasn't what the client was even communicating, right? This was one layer deeper in the unconscious, which runs 95% of our behavior. So this client now in my TCC group knows how to coach the root issue, right? Versus spending unnecessary time fixing her programs and doubting herself. She can see people, and now she can see people are not showing up because they're struggling, right? Not that they're not a right fit or ready for change. That's not it at all, right? Instead, she had to alter her group program and her one-on-one interactions to say, you know what, you're going to struggle, right? Here's these points I see from doing this, right? I've been doing this a couple of years. Here's the points where you're going to fall off. Bring that to me, right? Get ahead of it, okay? So that the survivor self feels safe already, okay? Her attendance starts getting strong, and then she starts to realize the group becomes this strategic part of the medicine. It's not just so that she can scale and serve more people and make more money, right? It's actually like, oh, okay, when we normalize that you're going to struggle, people come. They find value in that. They hear from other people, even though they may not, they didn't, the group is asking questions these people didn't know to ask, not because they're dumb or stupid, but because they're at a different part of the problem. And now everyone's learning from each other. And the group holds some of the emotional intensity that we have to hold as coaches, distributing it more evenly, which is, I find, to be this like unexpected benefit. So her results are skyrocketing as each individual discovers what works for them versus group themes. Everyone is so different. And yet, when it comes to our survivor self patterns, there's some pretty well-worn and proven ones that we can count on. And you'll learn more about those in the Truce Coaching Certification. And so then my client's having more fun in her business as retention and word of mouth referrals become easier, right? This is what we want. We want a triple win. I'm all about the triple one. All right. And then after, again, going through this certification and the mentoring with me, I'm pretty good after 20 years, she can see her group program did need improved upon, but not the way she thought. She had a solid structure and strategy, but she needed to include survivor self supports to shift the quality of the experience, right? How people actually went through it. Her what was pretty solid, but she had to add in a couple other whats and why nots, right? And that's when I say it doesn't mean you can't. This client had a ton of training, 10 years in the health and fitness space, was super into data tracking, nervous system, had so much expertise. So it wasn't that we threw away that expertise. It was just like, oh, these are some pieces missing, and I need the whole toolbox of change more than more acumen per se. And she didn't know what she didn't know because she was taking stuckness at the surface level, okay? And this helped her develop the confidence to be with clients and participants struggling in setbacks rather than making it about her or them, right? That's what I'm talking about. We need to normalize it. And she developed this confidence through solid adaptive acumen and working on her own survivor self patterns that wanted to overwork and make everyone happy all the time, right? So how great is that, right? So you get to do more of what you love, have more impact, clients get better results because you have the solid skills. So what's the payoff? Your healthy adult self develops the confidence to support your clients' survivor and healthy adult selves to get them to address emotional survivor self patterns, right? And here is what every coach, someone has yet to say this. I didn't know I had so much of my own work as a coach to do, okay? We coaches, we tend to be a little bit more resourced than the average person because of our training, because we're interested in this stuff, or we've had to figure it out, right? That was certainly my case. And we're just getting started too, right? This process is humbling, which enables us to be with our clients' humanity so much more, right? It's actually a paradox, but it's liberating and it's free. It's so freeing and fun. And so we really have to do our own work as coaches, okay? And you've probably heard the expression, you can only take your clients as far as you've gone yourself. But this is a different angle on that, meaning you have to be able to see your own patterns so that you don't get entangled with your clients' patterns. And when you can see your own patterns, then you can see them in your clients easier. You can get clients results they want and so much more. Okay, I just ended one of my group programs, and I think 6 out of the 12 people said, I didn't even think these results were possible, right? And I just love that because we learn so much about visualization and all this stuff. And again, that can be helpful, but that's almost like the carrot that the universe or their higher self, whatever you want to call it, is like, this will get me into action, but there's so much more waiting for them. More easily to design and scale group programs and masterminds because you will have the support for those fall off junctures, okay? And then the group becomes strategic part of the medicine as participants realize they aren't alone, melting fear, guilt, and shame. Yeah, it's just so beautiful. Okay, so we just went over a lot. Questions and answers, right? Now, obviously, I'm not there with you, but if something resonated, email me at allie@allieshapiro.com. Let me know what resonated, or let me know your questions, your reactions, right? This is so much of a back and forth. That's just how I teach and mentor, because we all learn from each other. So what are our next steps from this? So my Truce Coaching Certification is open this fall, 2026. It opens once a year. It is essentially I'm like, how many months? It's like a 10-month program. So it's very structured but flexible, and it's going to get you what you need if you want to help clients go to another level and enjoy your business, enjoy your confidence more. It is trauma informed, right? So that's really important, especially if you're working in the health space. I think it should be essential. It's open for registration now, trucewithfood.com/certification. If you're watching this, you're on that website right now. After you check out this and read the page, if you're interested, email me at allie@allieshapiro.com and we'll set up a time to chat. I don't have a formal interview process, but we'll just see if this is the right fit for you, okay? And then if you're like, this is good, this gives me a lot to think about, I need maybe another year of working with clients, maybe that's your own protective resistance. I don't know. But if you really feel that way, for sure. And again, I'm not a hard salesperson. Like, I'm all about people really being able to hear themselves. Check out my Truce with Food podcast. We have about as many practitioners as everyday people who listen to that. So you will get a lot out of that and learn so much that you can implement into your practice now. All right. Thanks for your interest. And I hope to hear from you at allie@allieshapiro.com.